What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Gamescript. Today, we're looking at the Houston Texans versus the Chicago Bears. They're playing in Houston tonight, and it's going to be a game where a lot of people are expecting Houston to take this game, and that's the most likely outcome, but we're here to build for more unlikely outcomes. So I'm going to cover all the angles in tonight's game, including one where maybe Caleb Williams isn't as bad as everyone thinks he is in the NFL. And I'll get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. Having a pretty good main slate right now. Got a lot of guys that are still in the mix for putting up points in a couple lineups that are live. But if you watched the player pool show, you saw a lot of those plays that we discussed are starting to hit, and it's looking pretty good so far. But the game between Tampa Bay and the Lions did not shoot out as much as I would have liked, but they still hit on the guys that we selected from that game. Amon-Ra and Baker had a pretty decent game, and then Godwin had another monster game. So looking pretty good there. But let's get into this Sunday night game. Hit the like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to put out a shorter video a little bit closer to lock. We're pushing it right now at about 4 o'clock Central. So make sure to hit that like button. Get me up to that 30 likes quick so I can put the shorter video out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to be subscribed so you can get the alert when that short video comes out. And make sure to help me get over 1,000 subscribers. I'm about I think 820 last time I checked. So I need about 180 subscribers to get over 1,000. That was my goal for the end of week 2. Probably won't get there for the end of week 2, but let's try to get there before the end of week 3. So hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and let's dive into this game. We're looking at a game being played in Houston. Houston is a 5.5 point favorite over Chicago. 44.5 points is the total. And it's a game where everyone's expecting Houston to kind of run away with it, which is understandable because the Bears looked pretty bad last year, one of the worst offenses in the league last year. Caleb Williams, though, he's got a pedigree, and a lot of people are writing him off already after one game, which is a perfect situation for us because when everybody likes to lean in one direction, we can go in a completely different direction and maybe have a little bit of success. And there are some things that happened in games between both these teams that show some opportunity for us to take advantage of some uncertainty. And last week, if you remember, Joe Mixon was one of my picks of the week, and he ended up going off. And I think he's in another good situation tonight against this Bears defense, especially if the game script that everyone is projecting happens, then Joe Mixon is in a really good spot tonight. If Houston is playing with the lead through the majority of the game, then that's obviously going to set up Mixon to have a decent night if they keep running it. Nico Collins, he's in a good spot tonight too. He is in a situation where he's playing against a style of defense that fits, like his targeting. So he gets targeted a lot in the style of defense that they are playing tonight. So obviously he's going to be in a good spot on top of just being a general stud already. It's cover 3 that he has crushed over his career, and he had a good game against the Colts, which ran the same style of cover 3 defense that the Bears run. So keep Nico Collins in mind. He is expensive, though, at $15K, at least in the captain. He's $15K. Let's go to the flex. 10K is his salary, and they do have a couple other receivers with good matchups as well. So let's dig into that. CJ Stroud, obviously he's a really good player. I don't know how much you're going to be committing to the run, though, especially on a night like tonight, where they're pretty heavy favorites. And CJ Stroud should soak up a lot of ownership, could give us an opportunity to fade him and play more the Joe Mixon game script. But we'll dig into that when we're building lineups to try to figure out what we want to do. Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs is in a good matchup as well. He is going against a team that allowed, their weakest spot last season, and the defense was against slot receivers. And Stefon Diggs ran about 65 or something percent of his routes in the slot last week. So he is their slot receiver for the Texans, and he is in a good spot with the game, which is funny because Tank Dell is also in a good spot and also has a good matchup. He's the cheapest of these receivers at a 7,400 salary. Only had 9 points, DraftKings points last week, but he had 7 targets, and he's in a good spot. Let's see what did I see here? He was targeted on 21.2% of his routes last week. He's a good price. And as far as the coverage, I was reading a article by Rich Rebar, and the second highest rate of coverage that the Bears run is cover 4. And that is the coverage that they like to target Tank Dell in. So Tank Dell is in a decent spot too, as far as the coverage that he can get. Make sure to check out that article by Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis. Let's see. DJ Moore is interesting to me tonight because he's basically the last man standing in this receiver core. He had 8 targets last week. Houston was susceptible to some big splash plays last week. You had a couple guys on Indy that were able to make these big splash plays. If Anthony Richardson had been a little bit more accurate, it could have been a couple more splash plays. But we're looking at Caleb Williams, as I mentioned earlier, the guy with a pedigree, drafted first overall. And, he did not look very good last week, but, his first NFL game, you can give him a pass on that. Maybe tonight he comes out. He's more accurate than Anthony Richardson, and he has the ability for a deep ball. So if he's able to make those same type of splash plays that Richardson made, and he has more success because he's more accurate, that could put DJ Moore in a very good spot. The concern would be if Derek Stingley is shadowing him, but Stingley only shadowed twice all of last year, and those 2 games were playoff games. So depending on how they look at this game, maybe Stingley shadows DJ Moore just because there's no one else to cover, or maybe he stays on his side of the field, which is opposite of DJ Moore's side of the field, which would put DJ Moore up against a rookie corner. And if you got, the ability of Caleb Williams to attack a vulnerable, deep defense here and hit Moore a couple times, that could put Moore in a really good spot. It puts Caleb Williams in a potentially good spot, and it's going to put a little bit of pressure on that Texans defense. So keep that in mind with DJ Moore. He's at 9K. Caleb Williams, as I mentioned, he's people were expecting big things out of him. He looked good in the preseason, when he little limited time that he played, but people were expecting big things of Caleb Williams. I'm not a college football guy, but I looked at enough highlights to see that, what they were talking about. Caleb Williams had a pretty rough outing last week, 29 attempts for 93 yards. But like I said, you give these rookies a pass. Marvin Harrison is already at a ridiculous stat line right now in the Cardinals game. I think we're not even to the halftime of that game yet, and he already has 2 touchdowns and a whole bunch of yards. So Caleb Williams, like a guy with his caliber, he could come out and do something too against this Houston defense. So keep him in mind. Keenan Allen is questionable. Keenan Allen has a heel injury. We're waiting to see information on Keenan Allen, but he's on the doubtful side of questionable. Tank Dell talked about him. DeAndre Swift, let's see what the Texans are allowing for running back points here. Last year, they allowed 20.7 DraftKings points a game. I would say if Keenan Allen is out, and maybe if Rome Odunze is another guy who's questionable for tonight. He's on the more positive side of questionable, fortunately. So he could still end up playing tonight. But if he's going to be limited, and then we got on top of it, Keenan Allen is out, then DeAndre Swift could be set up to be another de facto slot receiver or something in this matchup. So DeAndre Swift would be interesting, especially if Keenan Allen is going to be out. His salary is $7K. Rome Odunze, like I said, he's I believe he showed up to the stadium, he's at the stadium, so he's on the more positive side of questionable. He's looking like he might be a go tonight. Not sure how much exposure I want to him, but he had 4 targets, 1 reception, 11 yards last week. There's a potential, he pulls one of these rookies like Malik Neighbors. He went off today too. Maybe we get all these rookies start to come alive in week 2 here, and that would set up Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams for decent days today or nights. Let's see. Scroll down a little further. Dalton Schultz, he got kind of buried with all these weapons. He had 3 targets, 3 receptions, 16 yards. Didn't really need him last week. As far as the matchup, though, he's got a really good matchup. Last season, the Bears were giving up 13.8 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, which is, bottom 5 or so, top 5 for fantasy matchups. So I do like Schultz a bit in this game, but he's expensive at 5,600. So he's definitely not like any type of a lock or anything. He's more of a guy that maybe we can rotate in. Cole Kmet, lost a lot of his routes to Gerald Everett and his playing time to Gerald Everett, who they brought to the team. People are writing off Cole Kmet already as well, but I wouldn't be so quick to write him off because that's when he ends up having his big games, is when everybody says, he's done. And, this is a much better matchup. I mentioned that the Houston tight end had a top 5 matchup, but Cole Kmet has an even better matchup because on the other side, Houston's given up 14 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So let's take a look here. Cole Kmet is going to be in our player pool. Both these kickers, I think, are in play. Fairbairn is, he's just been a good kicker. And last week he had 17 DraftKings points on top of it. But these are 2 reliable kickers. And, this could be a game, depending on how these defenses do, where maybe they're kicking field goals throughout the night. Santos is another guy, a reliable guy. He didn't really do anything last week because they weren't in too much scoring position. But I take that back. He ended up getting 13 DraftKings points. So both these kickers are in play. Texans D, I lean more on the Texans D than I would on the Bears D, depending on what kind of lineup we're building. But Texans D is definitely in play. Khalil Herbert, not so high on him. I don't think he got a lot of work last week. Ended up getting 2 rushing attempts for 4 yards. The team was playing it close all night or all week last week. And, he ended up not getting any work at all. It was a DeAndre Swift show. So Khalil Herbert, I'm not too focused on tonight. Bears D, talked about them. Not really too enthusiastic about them, although they did get 24 DraftKings points last week. they're basically the reason why they won the game last week. So maybe we could work them in at 3K if we're desperate or we need like a cheap relief option. So Bears, I'm not overly enthusiastic because they got a potent offense that they're going up against, but like maybe in an alternate scenario where the Bears are putting up a fight in this one, they'd be good. Gerald Everett, he was getting a lot of those routes last week. Ended up only getting one target off of him for -1 yard, so he didn't really do too much. But I mean, you can tell from the image that he has with those glasses that he's ready to go, and maybe tonight will be a good opportunity for him with that good tight end matchup that he has. And he's only at 2,400. So, alternate scenarios. If we have more cash on the table, maybe we put Cole Kmet in there. Like and play the negativity on Kmet and take advantage of that ownership discount we'll probably have on him versus Everett, who's much more affordable at 2,400. We got DeAndre Carter. DeAndre Carter, I think, was the next man up after injuries to the other guys. So he had 2 targets, 1 reception. So DeAndre Carter is in play, and he is only 2K. Other than that, Velus Jones, if you watched Hard Knocks, they were trying to get this guy involved a lot as a running back. He ended up with 1 target last week for 8 yards. So if we get injuries, like maybe Odunze and Keenan Allen are out, then Velus Jones is going to be very interesting tonight at 1,200. The coaching staff loves him. They wanted him on the team. They got him on the team, and they're going to be looking to give him his opportunities. So don't be surprised if we see guys out hurt and Jones gets his opportunity. So he's a good cheap guy for us to keep in our player pool at 1,200. Beyond that, Cam Akers is interesting. He's only 200, but I'm not looking to him. Mixon carried almost all the work last week. So let's start a build here. We'll do something a little more on the chalky side. I think Mixon is the second highest projected ownership. Going to put him in as the captain because I think we can build a pretty good one. Marvin Harrison has 130 yards at the half and 2 touchdowns, so he's just going nuts. Stroud, I like Stroud under most circumstances tonight. Unless we think that they're going to be blowing out the Bears and Stroud is going to be getting less work. But, obviously if they get to a blowout situation, then maybe Stroud contributed to that. Unless we build a scenario where Mixon is the one who's getting all those points. Let's put in Tank Dell for salary relief. Let's put in DJ Moore because I think he's the best play, obviously, on the Chicago side. And I do think that, like Chicago is going to get their opportunities against this defense, especially if Stingley isn't shadowing Moore. So that leaves us with about 4,200 per guy. If we wanted to come down here, maybe we put in that Texans D. Maybe we build this first one under the situation where Caleb Williams is what we saw last week, and we get that Texans D in there. That puts us in a situation where we got like Santos, we got Herbert, if you want to go there. We got the Bears D. Maybe it's a defensive battle. Gerald Everett, and some of these lower guys. But that's a good mix-in lineup, I think, right there. And that's going to be more of a chalky build. Stroud is the highest owned of the captain projections. So if we put Stroud in there at captain, and instead of Mixon, maybe we put Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs in there. Let's go with Diggs just because of the slot matchup. That's going to leave us with 5K in this situation. We're going to probably want it a little bit more competitive. So let's get that Texans D out of there. Let's put in DeAndre Swift, give another weapon to keep that pace going back and forth. That would put Stroud with Diggs and Dell and give us DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift on the opposite end. And, it puts us in a situation we could put Everett in there. We could put Velus Jones in there. Maybe one of those guys is having a decent game. DeAndre Carter, depending on if he, is set up to have a decent amount of playing time tonight. If you wanted to take Dell out and put, or I'm sorry, let's keep Dell in there. Dell's going to be our cheap option in this passing game, so he's probably going to be pretty popular. Let's take Diggs out and put Collins in there, though. 1,900. That leaves us with an opportunity to put in Velus Jones, Velus. I'm not really sure how they pronounced it. Going down a little bit further, I'm not really seeing anything else that I'm too interested in. Yeah, there's no sneaky plays. If you know any sneaky, cheaper plays that you're excited about, feel free to leave it in the comments so other people can get a look. But I'm not seeing anything that's interesting to me. So let's clear this out. That's a Stroud build. You got a couple options there. Let's go in a situation where maybe Chicago's not as bad as they looked in week 1. And in that situation, let's put DJ Moore in there. Let's get Caleb Williams in there. Let's put Mixon in there. So let's say that they're playing from behind, and Houston is controlling the game. Houston wants to run. Houston wants to run the ball. Like they want that to be their identity, even though they have these passers and everything. Like these passing weapons and this monster passing game. So they brought in Mixon for a reason. They want to use him. And let's put him in this situation. They come from the Shanahan tree. So don't forget that D'Amico Ryans, I believe, was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers before he was the Houston Texans coach. So you know what the 49ers like to do. They like to run, be a run-heavy offense. They like to run as much as they can. So let's put Mixon in there. And let's put in Tank Dell because of that salary relief and his ability to face off against that coverage. So we got our 2 Houston guys. We got Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. Now let's say that, Caleb Williams, I think the only other really safe weapon here is DeAndre Swift. Let's put Swift in there. And that leaves us with 3K, 3,100. We could put the Bears defense in there and say that, maybe the Bears defense, makes a play late in the game that is going to help put us in a situation where Chicago is more competitive in this game. And then Caleb Williams is hitting DJ Moore with these plays, and DeAndre Swift, they're trying to run out some clock with DeAndre Swift, but also, he's heavily involved in the passing game given the injury situation. This would put us in a pretty good spot. If you wanted to, you could swap out Mixon with Stroud in this situation too, and that leaves us with 3,500. That way you still use the Bears in that situation, the Bears D. You could put in Everett, like one of those guys. Let's take out Stroud though and stick with Mixon. And let's look at swapping out Dell for maybe Stephon Diggs. Leaves us with 1,100. Not really much we can work with there. Yeah, so I think the Tank Dell situation is going to be very interesting. We're going to need Tank Dell to have a decent game for us tonight in order for these lineups to work out. And we can definitely, write a story around that. Let's go with Tank Dell in the captain, just because he's the cheapest stud on the slate. He's got that good matchup. Stephon Diggs, Let's put him in as well. Maybe him and Dell are, getting the most opportunity. Let's get Stroud in there since we got 2 receivers. And let's get DJ Moore in there. This is leaving us with about 53.50 per guy. If we wanted to, we could come down here to the Cole Kmet area. Also, we got these kickers. Maybe the kickers are having a bigger game, and that's how we justify not having Mixon in this lineup. So let's put a kicker in there. Scenario where Tank Dell is going to be the highest scoring guy. We want to have, like a story built around why is, Nico Collins not in there? Why is Stephon Diggs? Stephon Diggs is in there. Why do we have this one receiver yet, 2 receivers yet Stroud is not the captain? Because they're not converting on touchdowns and they're racking up PPR points, right? So Dell, maybe he gets the 1 touchdown that they throw. Both of them are racking up PPR points. Stroud is going along for that ride. Low scoring game because, Stroud has enough to make it in the flex position, but not the captain. DJ Moore is getting all the work on the opposite side. Fairbairn is converting on those touchdowns that they're not able to convert on. And that leaves us with 5,900. And that could put us in that Kmet range that I was talking about earlier. We could do something like put in Cole Kmet. We could put in Santos in that situation. Maybe it's a kicker versus kicker. Or we could put it in that Texans defense. And that fits our storyline too, because if the Texans defense is in there, like maybe they scored a touchdown and took an opportunity away from, like Nico Collins and Joe Mixon and whatnot. So, that helps us build a pretty good story there. Now, the one thing I'll say, though, is Chicago last year gave up 24 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. So I really like having Mixon in these lineups. So maybe Stroud is out and Mixon is in. And that puts us at 5,500 remaining. If we got that scenario, let's get Diggs out of there because we don't want to have 2 receivers necessarily. Maybe we put Caleb Williams in instead in this scenario where Caleb Williams and DJ Moore are having a solid connection. Tank Dell is getting a lot of PPR points like we talked about. And Joe Mixon and Fairbairn are mopping up the points there as far as touchdowns. This leaves us with 6,100 left, and that puts us in the situation where we can put in. I wouldn't put another receiver on the Texans side just because we don't want another receiver if we got Dell and the captain. But maybe we take out Fairbairn and let's put in Swift instead and see where that leaves us. 3,900. Bears D kind of works in this story. Then we got like 4-2 Bears build, which probably wouldn't work out so well. So maybe we just stick with Fairbairn there and be in that situation where we have options between. Let's see. We got those options between guys like Cole Kmet and Santos and Schultz if you wanted to. Texans D, like stuff like that. So, there are a few ways to go. I haven't really decided on which direction I want to go for captain yet. But right now, my favorite plays on the slate are DJ Moore, Joe Mixon, and Tank Dell, probably just because of his salary. So I'm trying to figure out, like what I like for the remainder of it. But hit that like button because when I do, I'm going to put up a short video and you're going to want to get the alert. So subscribe to the channel. When I get 30 likes, I'm going to put out the video. Subscribe to the channel so you get that alert. and you're able to not miss when that shorter video comes out. Now, keep in mind, the obvious outcome of this game is that the Texans, win this game pretty easily, based on what we saw last week from each team. But that's not how you're going to win the $15 contest on DraftKings. You're going to win it by taking a chance and saying, okay, maybe Caleb Williams is going to show up as the rookie, and he's going to give us a glimpse of what we anticipated when he was drafted first overall in the draft. And that is what's going to propel us to the winner's circle, because we're taking a chance on an outcome that we haven't seen yet. So we're going with the uncertainty with Caleb Williams, going with the uncertainty of that wide receiver core on both sides. Both these sides have wide receiver cores that are, every wide receiver on the Texans has a good matchup. There's a scenario explaining how each one of those guys has a good night, and they all have good matchups, and that's a big part of it. I would go with the lower owned guy of the three. And right now I'm seeing Tank Dell at about 43%, Nico Collins at 47%, and Stephon Diggs at 39%. So, you can pick and choose between those guys, really. But as far as the captain ownership, Dell and Diggs are both under 10%. So if I was going with a Texans wide receiver in the captain, I would probably lean towards one of those guys. And, the ownership for Mixon is going to be high. So if you put Mixon in the captain, you want to enter one of those large field tournaments, make sure that you have a story behind him that is different than everyone else is going to have. Tell your story for how the game plays out in a different way than other people will tell. And that'll put you in a good position to pass a lot of the field. So that's it for this. Make sure to hit that like button, get me to 30. I can put out that shorter video later on. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the alerts so you get the alert when that video is posted. Thanks, guys.